The fake marriage that turned real, the lie that started it all. You would be surprised how easy it is to get married, at least on paper. No music, no flowers, no tears of joy, just two signatures and a bored clerk behind a glass window. That's how it started for me and Daniel. No fairy tale love story, just a quiet lie we both agreed to tell. I was staring at a 90-day countdown. My student visa was running out, and my employer hadn't managed to secure me a work permit on time. I had spent years studying, hustling, building a life in the UK, and all of it was about to disappear with a single notice from the Home Office. Then Daniel said the word that would change everything. What if we got married? I laughed when he said it. Of course I did. It sounded like one of those ridiculous things best friends say over drinks. But he wasn't joking. Daniel, my friend of 3 years, the one I met during undergraduate orientation, was dead serious. He laid it all out. We would get legally married. I would get a spousal visa. We would split rent and utilities like roommates. We would keep it strictly platonic. I was hesitant, scared even, not because I didn't trust him, but because it felt too easy, too transactional, and illegal if it ever came to that. But desperation has a funny way of silencing your conscience. The idea marinated for a few days, and before I knew it, we were standing in a registry office, me in a borrowed dress and Daniel in a navy blazer he wore to every interview. It took exactly 13 minutes. We walked out husband and wife, with no kiss, no rings, no one clapping, just a new lie stretching out in front of us. One that would soon feel more real than either of us expected. How we knew each other, from friends to co-conspirators. Daniel and I met on our second day at uni. I was sitting alone in the cafeteria, eating a sorry excuse for rice and beans, when he plopped down in front of me and said, "Is that supposed to be edible?" I laughed. He had a gap-toothed smile and a soft London accent. I found out he was half Ghanaian, half British, studying computer engineering. We became fast friends, bonded over bad food, sleepless nights, and the way both of us had always been the responsible one in our families. He was funny without trying to be, observant so, and emotionally available in a way that made me forget we were just friends. We hung out, studied together, went out together, met each other's friends, but there was never a romantic spark. Or maybe there was, and we just buried it beneath the comfort of friendship. We both dated other people. Daniel had a long distance girlfriend for about a year. I had two short term relationships that fizzled out. But through it all, Daniel was my constant. I trusted him with things I couldn't tell anyone else. About my anxiety, about my fear of failure, the immense pressure from my family back home in Lagos to make it. He never judged, just listened, encouraged, and told me the truth even when I didn't want to hear it. So when he suggested marriage, not for love but for survival, I didn't doubt he meant it, not out of pity but loyalty. I would rather you stay and thrive than go back home defeated, he would say. It wasn't love, it was something, and at the same time, that felt like enough. Living together the early days. Moving in together was part of the plan. We needed to appear as a real couple. Shared bills, shared address, shared lives. The apartment was small, two bedroom, one bathroom, and a kitchen barely enough for two people to move around without brushing arms. We set rules. No crossing into each other's room without permission. No romantic involvement, no matter how blurry the lines got. Shared choices. Act like a couple only when absolutely necessary. At first, it was easy. We were friends and we respected each other's space. We went about our routines. Daniel called late into the night with headphones on, me watching Hollywood movies with my hair in a bonnet, silently mouthing all the dialogue. but the pretending started to bleed into real life. He started noticing when I was sad, even if I didn't say anything. I started cooking more, especially his favorite meal, egusi soup, just because I liked seeing him happy after a long day. There was one night I couldn't forget. I had a panic attack, one of those deep, suffocating waves that make you feel like your lungs are shrinking. I didn't even knock. I burst into his room, crying, barely able to breathe. He didn't say a word, just pulled me into his arms and held me. We never talked about that night again. But from then on, I stopped locking my door. The toughest part of the whole arrangement wasn't the paperwork, it was the people, the birthdays, the family FaceTime calls, the nosy friends, the pressure to perform. Daniel's parents lived in Birmingham and mine were in Lagos. Both families were conservative and traditional, the kind who expected a love story, a proper engagement, and lots of proof of affection. We had to manufacture a relationship timeline, photoshopped vacation pictures, memories posted on Instagram with clean captions, fake fights we mentioned to make it all feel authentic. I remember one particular weekend, Daniel's cousin's wedding. He insisted we attended together. It's the kind of thing immigration might ask about, he explained. I wore a gilly and a coral bead necklace and we played the role, holding hands, whispering to each other, dancing like we had been doing it for years. Afterwards, a few auntie came over. One pulled me aside and said, "You are good for him. I can see it." I smiled like I hadn't lied to a whole church hall full of people. Back home, we both sat in silence for a long time. Then he said, "I almost believed it today." And I whispered, "Me too." Our lives were starting to feel too comfortable. Too true. There were nights we cooked dinner together and forgot we weren't a couple. Nights we watched movies with our legs tangled on the couch, laughing until we couldn't breathe. Nights I caught him staring at me a little too long. Nights I stared back. Then came jealousy. He started talking to a girl from his gym. Nothing serious, just drinks, a few laughs, but I hated her without ever meeting her. I started going out more too, meeting new people, forcing myself to flirt and smile, if only to remind myself that I had options. But we fought, not big, yelling fights, but passive, bitter silence, snide comments, long stretches of pretending everything was fine. "Why are you upset?" he asked one night after I slammed the bathroom door too loudly. "I am not upset. You are acting like it. I'm not allowed to be tired now." "It's not that you're tired. It's how you shut down every time I breathe wrong." That night ended with two closed doors and one pillow thrown at the wall. But the next morning, I made him breakfast. He brought me coffee. Neither of us said sorry. But somehow, that was enough until it wasn't.